Hi everyone. I have found myself really missing being in Italy, and since I don't have a return date yet, I thought the best way to connect with Italy or feel reconnected to that part of myself is through food. In fact, I think that's probably one of the best ways that we can connect with people or places that we miss. And it just so happens that I maybe somewhat stupidly volunteered myself to cook a lasagna for a gathering that my mom is hosting this weekend. So I'm gonna take you with me. We're gonna cook a lasagna and I'm gonna talk about how to eat like an Italian, even if you aren't one. Now, total disclaimer, yes, my dad is Italian, my mom is Italian, but born in Montreal from immigrant parents, and I am not by any means a food, I wouldn't even call myself a foodie. Just gonna take my observations from being in Italy for half of last year and spending extended amounts of time there, and also just things that I picked up growing up in an Italian-Canadian household. First things first, just like in my closet, I need good ingredients. I start with high quality fabrics, I look for good quality construction, and that's the same with my kitchen and the ingredients I keep in there. I shop high-low in my kitchen the same way I do in my closet. So for example, I get a weekly delivery of discarded produce. It's a really cool program. It's from a company called Odd Bunch Canada. And especially if I'm cooking for a bunch of Italians, you can bet that the pasta, the tomato, the passata, all of those Italian ingredients, the cheese, that I go to a specialty grocer. Mine is called La Bottega. They bring in almost everything directly from Italy. So even if I'm buying a global pasta brand, I know it's coming directly from Italy. So I'm gonna take you with me to pick up some ingredients. Before we start our shopping, the most important part, my outfit. It's unseasonably warm, so I'm taking advantage of the whole shorts and a sweater combo, which is my favorite. Pretty much almost everything is French brands, except for my beautiful Canadian belt. Sweater, this is from Cézanne. The shorts are from Cézanne. I like that they're tailored because they just feel a little bit more dressed. The flats are Repetto. It's nice and warm, taking advantage. There is this like common, I think, misconception. People often assume that like all Italians will just shop only at their local markets, but supermarkets, those big stores, they are equally as popular, I would say now. So it's not like that kind of stereotypical thing that you always see, but at least in my case, I always try and shop little specialty. So let's go. Want to be in it? This is my friend. This is my bestie, Larissa. She's the expert. She's the food and wine expert. So actually, she gave me all the brands that I should shop from. So all of these are her recommendations, okay? Got it right from the expert's mouth. Look at your little hat! New merch. Yes. Amazing. Support your local shop and buy their merch. Cheat code for the bechamel is which bechamel sauce?
Oh, please. Chef.
It's called Chef.
All the Italians come in for it.
So Larissa's not lying. I went over to my aunt's house unexpectedly one day and she wanted to make me lunch even though I wasn't expecting it. And she whipped out that bechamel sauce and made like a super quick and dirty pasta. So cheat code, if you don't have time and you want to make a really nice lasagna, do like a pre-made bechamel, but make sure it's a really beautiful one. And also I feel like the bechamel, like having that in your pantry is a staple. You know, like how we have wardrobe staples? That's like a pantry staple, I think.
I love these. I'm just going to grab a few things. Oh my gosh. So I love Mutti brand. They're from Emilia Romagna. They are incredible. They're definitely a benchmark in tomato production. Their passata alone is amazing. This is what I'm getting for my lasagna? I would get that for your lasagna, yes. When you get a passata or tomatoes, product of Italy is the way to go. They're not acidic, they're well balanced. When you're in Italy, you're like, why is this pasta so good? It's usually because they're product of Italy tomatoes. But why don't you get the ones with basil? It gives it like an extra flavor.
Cheating. Really?
No, it's because they're preserved. Like that's actually the traditional way is they put a basil in it.
Oh, in the passata.
Yeah,
that's
so
waiting.
yeah, like it's not super basic. It just has like the most like delicate underlying. I never use plain. I never use plain. I
Two without and two
I find
with.
it just has this little, it's not like it's chopped throughout. It's literally like a few leaves.
Oh, so it's like infused
Yes,
almost.
it's infused. And I think it just gives it such a nice freshness. That's me.
Okay.
I would get 2 packs.
Okay, I'm gonna get 2 of these. Not gonna lie, I filmed this on 2 separate days. Lasagna is no joke and it takes a long time. The first thing that comes to mind when I think of how Italians eat is they eat seasonally. It means you're getting fresher, better quality food. It also means you are in closer proximity to your food. And I've been appreciating this more and more. So even if I crave, say, strawberries in the winter, I'm not going to buy them. I'll buy things fresh and freeze them if possible. Even my aunt in Italy has a similar thing. Whenever I go into her cantina, she has about, I kid you not, like 100 reused bottles of passata that she just put her own tomato sauce in. I'm gonna tell you about this little like Parmesan cheat code that my parents do. Don't go to like your regular grocer and buy the craft Parmesan that you keep in the fridge that's already pre-grated. I think I might be giving some of you anxiety by looking at the camera and chopping my celery. I apologize. Don't do that. Okay, instead, go to whatever grocer is closest to an Italian or specialty grocer where you can buy your Parmesan in a big block. I love my little La Bottega store because I'll buy it and they'll actually grate it for me on site, which is fantastic. So you're grating it fresh and then throw it in the freezer. And I'm sure all of you have heard this already, but just in case, when you get your Parmesan grated, this is the only YouTube video, by the way, where I'm gonna be like waving carrots at you. Don't forget to keep the rind. The Parmesan rind is amazing to add flavor if you make your own minestrone or sauces. I'm gonna throw the rind of my Parmesan in here. Just really adds some depth and richness to the flavor. Look at me sounding like I know what I'm talking about. I don't. Just do it, okay? I have to look for my peeler, excuse me. I start by making my regular ragu. For every sauce, you start with your sofrito. The sofrito is like the base. Traditionally, it's made up of onions, carrots, and celery. Now your sofrito is ready for sauteing. I'm gonna throw some olive oil on here. I really like it when the vegetables kind of melt in, so that's why I chop my sofrito quite finely. But if you don't like chopping, then you can grate your veggies if you want, and then they kind of become, they kind of melt into the sauce. Okay, shameless plug for the olive oil. I had it shipped from my dad's cousin's olive oil farm in Puglia, and I just think this is so genius. It fits perfectly in my little cupboard. It's got the spout, so I literally sometimes I just put the pan that I'm working with. Actually, I might just do that now. I usually just eyeball everything. The company, if you're interested, they're called Le Tre Colonne. They are an award-winning olive oil producer. I'm just so proud of them. My dad's cousin's husband actually has an incredible entrepreneurial spirit, and now his daughter showed me around the farm when I was there last. Of course, they have different kinds. So this is like your classic cooking olive oil. This is what I use to cook every day. That's why I have so much of it. I'm gonna leave a link for them down below. They don't know that I'm talking about them like this. I'm probably embarrassing them in some way. My cousin schooled me on the importance of good olive oil and how, you know, the stuff that we find at the grocery store is usually mixed oils. So this is 100% 100% cold pressed, beautiful oil. That's something that I would splurge on. You know, like similar to our closets, like where to save, where to splurge. This is a splurge. The olive oil, 100%. Technically, I should have put the oil in first, let it heat up, and then added my sofrito. I don't know. It hasn't been the end of the world so far. And you know what? I might add some garlic this time too. Before this gets too hot, I'm gonna do that. Something else that I should be doing is cooking with a wooden spoon. I left for Italy for almost 7 months and came back, and my wooden spoon is no longer here. So I really, really need to get one. Please do not judge me for using not a wooden spoon. Usually if you ask an Italian in the kitchen as they're cooking what the quantities are, typically with seasonings, they'll say quanto basta, which is essentially to your taste. Like you put as much as is needed. And I love this idea, especially when we're learning. I think experimentation is one of the best ways to discover our own tastes and creativity. So this idea of quanto basta is just discovering your own taste. You add and you taste, you add and you taste. And over time, you figure out what quantities work for you. I'm gonna saute this for another 5 to 8 minutes. I usually like to saute it until I see some little brown pieces, until the onion is completely translucent. In with the wine. If you don't want, you could do a veggie bolognese. I actually made a veggie lasagna the other day because I don't eat meat that often. Maybe a little bit more. An alternative for a wine, you could do like a vegetable stock or chicken stock if you wanted. So I'm gonna let this deglaze, evaporate. And then we will add our passata. Adding the milk. I am so curious about this passata with the basil already in it. Another, I would say, tenet of eating like an Italian, even if you aren't one, is recognizing that ingredients and recipes themselves are actually quite simple. I believe the beauty of Italian cooking is in the simplicity and the quality of the ingredients and just the kind of layering of flavors. And I'm not even gonna speak to this too much because, like I said, I'm not an expert, but what I have noticed is that if you have all the basics in your pantry or in your kitchen, like good oil, garlic, good veggies, zucchinis, that kind of thing, you're always going to be able to come up with something. And I think this is another characteristic of Italian cooking, is this ability to make something from nothing. A lot of really beautiful Italian dishes are what's called la cucina povera, which is like poor cooking. You know, we think of pasta fagioli, which is just pasta and like white beans or chickpeas. That was a staple in my house growing up. It is not so much about trying hard, you know? It's not about trying to make the perfect sauce or trying to have the most beautiful outfit. It's about, at least this is what I take from it and what I like to work on is, you know, it's about taking what you have, making it really beautiful and really good, beautiful for others to enjoy. And it comes from within, from this innate sense of just wanting to bring joy, wanting to nourish, wanting these beautiful things to look at. It doesn't come from so much effort. And I feel like since being in Canada, I've noticed that there is so much effort put into things, you know, like our morning routines and our evening routines. And I think if we focus on the basics and the foundations, you know, the simple yet high quality ingredients, then we come out with something that is so much more valuable to us and authentic and so much more nourishing as well, just from like a physical and a soul level perspective. Okay, well, that's all the philosophy I have for you today. I apologize for that very deep insight. I just wanted to talk about the simplicity of the ingredients and the recipes that Italians use, but here we are. Now I let it simmer. Hang on, I'm gonna show you. I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt before letting it simmer for a while. And I'm gonna add also that Parmesan rind. I'm gonna prep my mozzarella and do some work while it simmers. This has been simmering for a while. It smells amazing. Our sauce is ready. I have opened up the bechamel. Normally, I make my own bechamel sauce from scratch, but I'm trying to minimize my workload. I've got my sauce, my mozzarella, the bechamel. Now I just need a pan. Clearly made a lasagna for someone and never got the pan back. So I have to use these. I grabbed one from Alyssa when I was at the store, 375 Fahrenheit. The other blasphemous thing that I'm doing, the oven ready pasta. Normally I boil my pasta. We're gonna try something new. Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. It feels so wrong to put dry pasta in the oven. In Alyssa, we trust. I'm gonna start with my layer of sauce. I'm gonna put a lot, especially because the pasta is going in dry. A layer of sauce. We're gonna put the bechamel and then a layer of mozzarella and repeat. My final piece about eating like an Italian, food and socializing is an inherent part of Italian culture. And what I especially like about eating like an Italian when it comes to the social side of things is that I feel as though food is just better shared. Here in Canada, my friends and I, we have to book dates. When I was hearing my cousin and her friends just talking about making plans or whatever, dinner and food and even socializing together, it was very fluid. Their interconnectedness is very consistent. And as such, their food is often shared. Dinners and lunches last a really long time. I also find here in Canada, just our communities and our infrastructure is very much centered around the individual or the individual family. Maybe if you're cooking for yourself or you're cooking solo or you're just cooking for your family, another really easy way to eat like an Italian is to just share it. I think especially today, it's so easy to isolate ourselves and miss out on that social interaction. But I actually think that togetherness and community is one of our greatest strengths as humans. So all of that for a lasagna. I'm gonna finish building this, I'm gonna pop it in the oven, and we'll be almost done. Well, that is what I have for you today. I am kind of regretting not making my own bechamel and using the oven-ready pasta because I swear this is the first time I've ever used them, and I feel like that was not a good example to set. But anyway, here we are. I think the message is still clear. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and let me know in the comments below what you want me to cook next. I'm just kidding. This is by no means becoming a cooking show. But you know, if you do like this kind of content, just let me know in the comments below. Enjoy your pasta. Enjoy whatever you're eating today. Enjoy it slowly and well. I will see you in the next slow fashion video. Ciao.
You live in Rome. You said something really interesting to me about eating lasagna.
Right, so etiquette is, surprisingly enough, you do never cut your pasta with a knife, especially your lasagna, but never any other kind of pasta, but that's a mistake you make. So no knife cutting lasagna.
No knife cutting with, no pasta, no knife cutting with pasta in general, but especially lasagna. Yay! Thanks for